So I'd like to start this first session talking about really what I believe is at the heart of why we use Maximo, and that would be assets. Assets really are what we're trying to maintain with Maximo, and that could be we're trying to get good data around how we're maintaining it. We want to avoid it going down, so that preventive maintenance perhaps, or that corrective maintenance. We want to know the inventory usage on it to see what we're spending. Even when it comes to labor hours, how much is it costing me to maintain this asset? How long have I had this asset? When do we need to think about replacing it? Is this asset under warranty? All of those questions, well, really, all of those answers can be stored in Maximo so that you can answer all of those questions whenever you need to. And if you have thousands of assets at your organization, trying to keep track of all of that on an Excel spreadsheet would be very difficult to maintain. And so Maximo really has some great capabilities. And so I want to share about assets and why I think it's so important that you track your assets in Maximo and some key components or key fields, key data that you should be recording in Maximo about your assets. So the first thing I'd like to do here is take a look at the assets application. I've got a standard test or kind of demonstration asset pulled up here. And so you can see we've got a number where we would assign perhaps a specific number to this asset, and that's how we identify it. At our organization, we have tags with barcodes so that that you could pull that up with a work order if you're using Maximo Mobile or a different application. But barcodes really can be scanned, and a lot of different things can be done with them. So you've got the asset number, the description. Something that's important here is the site where it's located, and for us at a manufacturing, and especially if you're in, for example, medical manufacturing, calibration is so vital that you maintain correctly. And I love that it's standard in Maximo Manage now. If you were to check that box, it would then open up extra things that I can be maintaining. Is this an internal calibration? Does it have to be an outside vendor calibration? But I can know that it's a calibrated asset. If I go down here, I can see the specific location of that asset. And so think about, for example, location is so important. I feel like it maybe sometimes is not emphasized in people's minds maybe as much, but it really is so vital. And it depends on what type of organization you're at. The assets, for example, some of them may be stationary, but a lot may move. And so location, if I'm looking at a plastic injection molding facility, the hopper that's on top of the machine, I might not stress as much about where that one's located. Now, I'm not saying I shouldn't care or that I shouldn't. I'm just trying to say when it comes to prioritizing, I'd a lot rather know where that machine is located and make sure I know the right one. For example, if I've got a robot on top of an injection molding machine and it's in the system got the wrong location, now, I want to teach my technicians at my organization, of course, hey, if you don't see something, don't just close a work order out and say, I couldn't find it. I couldn't perform it because we don't know where the asset's at. We need to notify somebody and find out where that's at, because if we do that a couple of times, even though we may have preventive maintenance set up to come out regularly, if we can't ever find it because we don't know where it's located, and it's not right in the system, wherever that robot's operating, if it is, if it goes down because it hasn't been maintained, it could cost us the entire robot or just the downtime and the part, and trying to maybe fly it in because we've got to hurry up and get this line back up. So locations are very important. So you can think about high level, we've got the site itself, but then maybe this is a specific room or a specific, location at the facility, and then go down from there and say, well, maybe it's work cell 5, and then inside work cell 5 we've got maybe 20 machine locations, and you could just go, that could be your hierarchy. Or if it's a facility, you've got the building, but then you've also got the floors, and then you've also got the rooms, and so you could really just really use locations to your advantage. And so it's really something to think about trying to standardize. And maybe if you haven't got it super clear at your organization, if you're already using Maximo, how could we enhance this moving forward and really utilize locations to our advantage? But I will say, for example, like at the manufacturing facility, if it's something that gets moved frequently, I would suggest that you don't put a location unless, like a very specific detailed location, unless you've got a procedure in place that you can get notified regularly about equipment moves, or that you regularly perform, for example, every month an asset inventory, and so that you know if those assets are at those locations, because whatever location's here, when you generate that work order, that's what's going to be on there, and that's where the technician's going to look for that asset. So locations are very great. It's just very important that we use them to our advantage, to where they don't hold us captive or they're constantly incorrect. But how can we find that balance to where it's as detailed as we can get it, yet not so detailed for certain things that might hurt us in the long run? We've got meters, and that's important. Really, you can take your not just recording meters on an asset for knowing, how many hours is this run, in this case, how many hours is this pump run, but you could actually trigger your preventive maintenance using your meters, for example, hours instead of calendar. And so where that's really going to be helpful is if you've got the meters being entered either by a system or even by a technician or somebody regularly at your organization. If you've got those meters consistently entered, you can generate preventive maintenance only when it runs, only when it's needed. If you've got, for example, some equipment that doesn't run 24/7, and then that would be helpful, for example, to reduce your paperwork load on people at your organization, because if it hasn't run for 2 weeks or a month, we don't get the work order. And so meters are great if they're utilized consistently. And so, of course, the best way is to automate that by a system. But if you don't, you can do it manually. It just requires consistency. So I've got purchase information here. I think what's very important here is the installation date and warranty expiration date. If this field is filled in, if you know the warranty and you've got it in Maximo, it will actually alert you on work orders and say, hey, this asset's under inventory. This asset's under warranty. And it may be a consumable that's not under warranty, but it may be something that could save you thousands of dollars, because we go back and we check with the manufacturer or the vendor and say, hey, we had to replace this, and it actually ends up being covered under warranty. We've got purchase price, and so if you're an executive and you want to know, hey, how many assets do we have that are 20 years older or more? That installation date's going to help you. And then you can know, hey, what was the purchase price, and how much and then if you look at how much it's costing us to maintain this, of what we expect versus maybe if it's more than that, maybe it's time to replace it based on the age, and you can make all those decisions if the data's in here. So also you've got here on the right total cost and year-to-date cost, and so that can be very helpful. As you look up here, we've got some tabs that are very important. Right here, I've got the spare parts tab. And this, I believe, is so vital. So if you're in MRO or even not, if you're a technician, How helpful would it be if that entire bill of materials was uploaded here and was on this asset, so that if something failed, you would have part number, and then we could actually go to look who's the vendor, what was the cost. There's lots of different, there's lots of information here that would be helpful if that spare part's on here. And there's a neat thing that Maximo has, that if you're not able to build your spare part list immediately, you can actually check a box in Item Master that will add it as a spare part to any asset to which it is issued. And so that is a great function as long as we're issuing it to the correct assets. And so if people pick the wrong asset or the wrong work order, then it would be on the wrong thing. But if the correct information is verified when you're checking that out, for example, of the supply room, then it could be very helpful to build your spare part list that way. But let's say you've got a custom automation that maybe you built, or you had somebody build for you. Could you get that spare part list and add it here? Spare part usage, the spare part list can help you so much and save so much time, really. Because think about it, if you're a technician and maybe you pull off a part that the part number's been rubbed off, and you know what it is, but you don't know what the part number is. If it was on here, I could go and look. And even if there were 5 similar things with that name, I could narrow it down to 5 and already know what they were and go look them up or go talk to a vendor, and that I could save time that way. So I love having the spare parts on an asset, so important. We've talked about meters. Specifications is important with your classification. How you classify that asset. Specifications here are so important as you classify that asset correctly. Because, hey, let's say we want to pull a list of all of our centrifugal pumps versus a different type of pump. It's important that it's classified correctly. But the beauty of classifications is not just that I've classified it, but I can have specific specifications added to that classification in Maximo, so that anytime when I create an asset and I select, for example, this centrifugal classification under pump, these attributes can be loaded. And so they will automatically load. Now, not the data inside it, that I would fill out, but that, like in an organization, if I'm saying, hey, these are things that are important to me, I need to know the speed, I need to know the capacity, the stage, the size. It's an automation already of saying, hey, we're already going to put these on this specific asset, but if you've got an asset with a different classification and different attributes under the specifications here, it's not going to show you those. It's only going to show you those when you select that classification. So this is how classifying and adding those attributes could be really helpful as well. So one other thing I think to mention is the attachments. And the attachments, I think, are so important because maybe I've got drawings, and if a technician's going to be performing a repair, they could see those drawings. If I've got lockout tagout procedures, I could load them, of course, on the job plan, or there are special places for that, but you could also load it here. If I've got, for example, maybe the warranty, I could put that here and say this is the warranty. So, depending on what information you want people to be able to view globally or within your organization is maybe what you'd limit putting on there. But you could have the maintenance schedule, like if there's a maintenance manual for that piece of equipment with the suggested schedule in there, that can be uploaded here. Really, there's so many things that you can upload to the attachments here. So that's just a brief overview of assets, and really, this is the heart of Maximo, and so it's so important to get your assets built correctly, or maybe if they're not very specific, get them updated. I think would be very helpful for you. One more thing I see here as I look would be serial number. That's very important. That establishes what that individual piece of equipment is, especially if I want to go back to the vendor or manufacturer. Really helpful things for assets, and that will round out our first session here about the heart of what's at Maximo, I believe, is maintaining efficiently our assets.